Okay. Grand Rising, everyone. It is Saturday, July 4th, 2026, 10:04 a.m. Uh, I'm excited about today. Not sure exactly why, but I'm excited because it is July 4th. And it is no coincidence that we are here at this time. And I want to know what's being going to be said today, put out there in the macro and kind of every lesson to me as a continuation from where we left off the prior time we spoke. On Monday, we talked about being melanated, being black, being called black. We talked about the names given to everyone else. We're not Haitians, we're not Dominicans, we're not this or that. We are called black. And I'm proud of that. It means we are everything. Everything comes from us. So we talked about the Gematria number 8, and we talked about new beginning. Uh, we talked about what is going to happen after this 4th of July, not a continuation of hatred and racism, those sort of things. We talked about birthrights, and I'm not sure we're finished with that yet. I love that topic, and maybe we'll get into that at another time. But any questions about any of this before we pass it on to Pastor and see what else, see where we're going today. Any questions about anything? Please make sure your phones are muted, please. And I hand it over to Pastor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. I too feel like this is a different 4th of July. I don't think it's coincidental that it's on the Sabbath. Um, I don't think that it's coincidental that there are so many people on social media and people we run into who are whose eyes has been opened to the 4th of July. I am very grateful to Donald Trump and to Mitch McConnell for their contribution to the eye being open for people who look like us. However, that is not the main thing that I want to talk about. What I would like to uh, put forth today is something that I have been guided to look at, and what I have been guided to look at is the Ankh. And I know that we have spoken about the Ankh in the past, and we have talked about what it means. However, the Ankh is representative or is indicative of far more than what we see in the shape. It actually represents the human body. Um, the Ankh was called the key of life, not the life that begins at birth and ends with death. It is the key of life, the key of true life, the life that begins at the moment that we become aware of self. The moment we become aware of being the I am. We have talked about being the I am. However, we've not talked about what happens when we recognize that we're the I am in terms of uh, true life being made available to us, as opposed to what we have in the past deemed to be life. The Ankh was never intended to be admired. It was not something to adorn your tables or the walls, something to be put on a t-shirt. It has never been just a piece of jewelry. It is more than an ancient symbol, much more than that. It was, and it still is, a mirror of your reflection, a reminder that it is a bridge between the human and the divine. The divine exists in the awareness of who we are. The Ankh, it must be embodied. It must be taken on as a living entity that is symbolized by the material object that we see. It is no different than the carvings on the walls of the temples that depict Isis or Osiris or Haru. Excuse me. However, if it were not for the understanding of the Ankh, we would not be able to experience the energy of any of those entities that I spoke of a moment ago. When we embody it, we become aware that it's truly a reminder of the divine feminine. And being a reminder that it is the divine feminine, then we're also reminded that it is the source of life. It brings to us memory of who we are. It does not connect us to anything. It simply reminds us of everything that we ever forgotten. Everything that we forgot, it reminds us of it. It's not a relic. It reminds us that there is no beginning and no end to us. It reminds us that we have always been in existence. It reminds us that we are consciousness. We are consciousness itself. It reminds us that we have need to look beyond these material, these physical bodies of ours, and see the reality of who we are. And when I say see the reality of who we are, I'm not talking about with these eyes, but I'm talking about with the eye of itself. And when we understand that, we also understand that the eye is consciousness as well. The Ankh is the breath of the divine feminine energy of all life from which everything has been birthed. It doesn't matter what is a grain of sand, whether it is a bird or whether it is us. Everything was birthed from divine feminine energy. Now, if you have any questions as we go through this, I would, appreciate it if you would stop me and raise your question. The Ankh is a technology. It's a portal that aligns us with the source of all existence. It is the key that opens the door between the visible and the invisible. The opening at the top is not random. It is the portal of birth and rebirth. What do I mean by that? It is the portal of our entrance into life itself in the beginning, as well as it is a rebirth after we begin to remember who we are and who we always have been. It is the divine womb. It represents infinity, the unbroken cycle of existence. It is feminine potential waiting to be activated. And the activation of the Ankh is through meditation, through desire, by being reminded of what it represents. The crossbar represents the balance of duality, chaos and order, the seen and the unseen, the masculine, the feminine. The crossbar reminds us that we live in a world of opposing forces, and the energy of the Ankh harmonizes the duality, bringing it together as one force. It does not bring balance through conflict. It brings balance through the unification of those opposite forces. And when we look at it from the perspective of femininity and masculinity, what we see is what we call being on the same page, is being in harmony, even though at one time we were opposing forces. Is that clear?
I have a question.
Go right ahead.
Well, two. When you say opposing forces, we're talking about femininity and masculinity, right?
More than that, everything that appears to be
In duality?
we're talking about duality.
Okay. Can you, I lost, or maybe I don't understand how the Ankh came about and how it's tied to the cosmic.
Oh, I'm getting there.
Okay, all right. Let me not rush.
Okay, that's okay. The vertical bar is the pathway of spirit descending into matter. It is a reminder that spirit descends into these natural or these bodies in order for them to be life itself. Now, mind you, I'm talking about the original people in the earth when we're talking about the Ankh, okay? The spirit descends into these bodies in pure consciousness. It enters this dense form and it remains in the, not only the pineal gland in terms of light, but it also flows through the body to keep it alive. Because when we look at the meaning of breath, it also means spirit. So everything that lives because of the presence of this the spirit. The vertical bar also represents the phallic through which the seed of life descends. The Ankh is the fusion of the feminine and the masculine. It is the conductor of energy. It is the original trinity, a tuning fork of the soul. Why do I call it a tuning fork of the soul? Because the ancients held it during their rituals, and the reason they held it up during their rituals is because it brought them. They became one with the frequency of the universe. The Ankh was brought into existence by the ancients because of what they had been shown through the universe. The eye received an image of what was to be developed. And when the eye saw this, it molded an Ankh out of gold, actually. And to the ancients, this was a reminder of everything that I've said earlier. It was a reminder of the unicity that the body has with the spiritual. It was a reminder that without the womb, that there would not be any. Ramel, would you 111, please? Without the womb, there would not be the birth of anything in the earth. It's a reminder that regardless of how things appear to be chaotic, or how things are resistance to each other in terms of something that is negative, it reminds us that crossbar reminds us that it balances everything in the center where that crossbar meets the vertical peg, or the vertical bar. What happened is masculinity, religion, closed the womb of the Ankh. It closed the womb of the concept that the Ankh represented. One of the first things that happened when Europeans went into Kemet and made efforts to change the meaning of the Ankh because of the power of it. They closed that loop at the top, and when they closed that loop at the top, they actually gave us death, because the cross itself represents death. And if you think about it, give any thought whatsoever to it. Christianity came from Catholicism, and regardless of what we say in church, regardless of the denomination you follow, the truth of the matter is that Catholicism is the mother, the father of Christianity, as also of Islam as well, but that's a story for another day. And being the birth of Christianity, when that loop was closed, it gave us a cross, which means that we died, or the death of being who we were created to be started at that point. And it became a masculine tool of death, because it was the masculinity of Europe that closed that loop. It was the masculinity of Europe that introduced that cross as being something of life. But what it actually did, it made the cross a tool of death to a European Jesus, so it could be resurrected in order to save the world. And this European Jesus was supposed to be the deliverer, the salvation, the deliverer of us meaning humanity, in order for us to have opportunity to enter a place called heaven, but yet live under the thumb of racism and hatred while we were in this earth. It is a symbol of the death of spirituality in the hearts and the souls of the first people in this earth. Christianity was aimed at the Cabalonia, the African, before anyone else on this earth. And by it being that symbol of religion, it served its purpose as putting a dagger in our hearts and separating us in terms of our memory from the reality of what the Ankh represents. The cross itself, religion, does not grant us access to life. It has no respect for femininity at all, and that is seen when we look at the reality of how it purposely and definitively closed the loop at the top of that Ankh. Now, if you think about the idea of it, loop being feminine, a womb, and when the basic understanding that we've had of it is real. that the arms, the crossbar, the horizontal bar, speaks to the concept of the scrotum, and the vertical bar speaks to the phallic or the penis. Which when we look at both of them, we see first the womb that giving birth to masculinity, and then we see that when they become one, when they are on the same page, then life continues to flow in the earth as it was intended to flow. However, when you close the womb, nothing can come out of it. And anything that masculinity brings into existence is brought into existence through violence, not through a womb of peace and harmony. Does that help you, Vermeil?
It does. My question when you says when it closed, you're referring to the unk being it was closed?
I'm referring to the efforts that was put forth by Europeans
Mm-hmm.
to erase the power, the meaning of the Ankh. And how did they do that? They did away with the loop at the top and made it a cross.
Okay, got it. Okay,
Any other question?
not yet.
Okay.
Thank you.
So what are we saying here? What I'm saying is this. There were no spiritual rituals that were engaged in without the presence of the Ankh. You can look in the literature of the priesthood. You can look at the walls in the temples, the walls in the pyramids. You will find the presence of the Ankh. The highest emblem of a symbol of feminine energy produces a birth in a world is the Ankh itself. Everything follows that. The concept of Isis and Osiris is a concept that speaks also to the Ankh, that that Isis was able to give birth without the presence of a penis. And what was birthed? A son, a Horus, a Haru. And Haru came from that woman. And that is speaking to the birth of masculinity that came from the womb. And that is represented from the loop at the top and the crossbar, and as well as the vertical bar at the bottom of the ankh, the womb, rather. That's the birth of it. Questions or comments?
Hey everyone, just to add to that,
Yes, sir.
when we look at the Ankh as kind of what we've been saying, it's the symbol of the continuous flow of energy into and out of this material state, or the state of matter, which relative to spirit is the state of death. So when we look at the cross, as we've just been saying, it is the symbol of being trapped in matter because there is no escape out. So it's kind of like the one is the symbol of the continuous flow of the energy of life. The Ankh one is the symbol of the stopping of that flow in the cross. And the Christian cross, as we've been talking about it. And well, I'll leave it there. Yeah, it's just there's all kinds of mathematical and symbolic things sort of layered up in what the Ankh visually represents, and metaphysically and spiritually is vibrating in tune with. And that's the same for the cross, although the cross, as we said, is the symbol of being trapped. and I don't know if you're going to get to this, Pastor Richard, but the bottom part of this Christian cross, as we all know, is much longer than the top part. And the length of that bottom part geometrically is that's where the emphasis is, the strength is. And it's pointing down, quote unquote, into matter, into the spiritually disconnected or dead, quote unquote, state. Whereas the Ankh balances it out much better with the loop on the top. And that's also where you get a characteristic of the European mindset, or the mindset of being hyper-focused on materialism and disconnected from spirit, is seeing everything linearly, or everything as well, I'll leave it that way. So we see our sense of time as purely linear. There's a beginning and there's a definite end. Whereas if you are more connected to the reality of what spirit is, and more connected to nature, et cetera, you begin to see more cycles. So our sense of time in particular, or in many things, but our sense of time is more cyclical. You begin to see the cycles. So it's like the disconnection and confusion of masculinity sees only linear things, whereas the true nature of things is that they are cyclical, time in particular. And that's where a lot of concepts come from. So like reincarnation, you can see it at the top of the Ankh. You leave this body, you go through another period outside of this body, and then you return if you still have lessons to learn. Whereas in the Christian cross is one or the other, up, down, heaven, hell, alive, dead, etc. So it's just a symbol of that myopic or narrowed perception as a result of the disconnection from the reality of spirit, and from the lived experience of being in that, or connected to the flow of energy and life and spirit. Thank you.
No, thank you for highlighting that.
I wonder also.
Go ahead, Barbara.
I wonder also if the Ankh is sort of like a message or a map or a guide to remind us of the goddess from which we came, or that consciousness of the goddess from which we came, because the round part at the top also represents the womb, and the part which is the cross can represent the fallopian tubes of the feminine, and at the bottom can represent the uterus through which the tube through which life is birthed. And so it looks almost like a womb and fallopian tube and a birth canal as well.
Wow.
Which symbolizes where original life comes from.
Thank you. I had not seen it from that perspective, but it makes all the sense in the world, Barbara Jean.
Yeah.
And that in itself also speaks to duality. You're representing both masculine and feminine, as well as the birth of everything that is through that birth canal. Any questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Grand Rising family. So, two things. One, do we give energy to the symbols?
No.
Especially that we talk about let me finish. Do we give life to the symbols and to the Ankh, or they give life to us, a frequency? And when we talk about the feminine, the fallopian tube, the womb, isn't the church set up like that as well? Like when you walk down the aisle, that's the fallopian tube. When you get to the altar or the front, that's like the womb.
No,
That's my question. That's my two questions.
the church is fully masculine and has has nothing to do with the Ankh at all. The way you described it, at the head of that, if you walk down the aisle of the church, who's at the head when you get down front?
I know, but I'm asking a question about, is it not set up like the womb and the,
Evelyn, I'm asking you a question for a reason. Who's down front?
the preacher?
The preacher. Masculinity is down.
Yes.
So it's set up like the cross, not like the Ankh. There is no opening there. There is no space there for femininity. You are Reverend Sister, or you the evangelist. You're not respected as femininity. It is always masculinity. And even if it did have an opening there, even if it does have a female there, that female is not representing the Ankh. That female is representing Christianity. That female is representing the cross that came out of Rome. Are you able to see that?
Yeah. And I hear you, what you're talking about spiritually and everything, but I'm saying, and maybe, again, maybe I'm missing it. So I'm looking at how the building itself is set up.
Listen,
And you're saying that,
I'm saying that the building itself represents masculinity. The building itself, a church, is the word church comes from circle, and it is cyclical in terms of its Christian beliefs. The building with the spire on it represents the energy that they intend to attract to give power, in essence, to masculinity. Every single church has a cross in it someplace. That cross represents masculinity, not the Ankh. The Ankh, or the belief rather, of spirituality, embracing spirituality, is totally antithetical to what Christianity or what religion is about, whether it is Christianity, Islam, or Judaism or any other ism. So there is no correlation between the church and the temples of Kemet. At the temples of Kemet, on each side of the temple, there was an obelisk. And the obelisk represented the energy flows from the upper world. Now, we don't give life to anything above. We give life to everything below. We receive life energy from above. And that is the reason we were able to give birth to every human in the earth. We receive that life by virtue of being birthed by the cosmic mother. And because we received that life, we were able to produce through matter. The ancients taught us that we are not trapped in a body. We are light. We are a spirit that is learning through matter, meaning that we are bodies. I'm sorry, we are in bodies, but we are not trapped in bodies. We are here to learn what it is like for the divine to live in a physical world. Now, if we believe that we are humans trying to be spiritual, then life becomes a struggle to us. But if we believe that we are spiritual and our purpose for being here is to bring light to those who we have birthed, then life is no longer a struggle. If we recognize that we are spirit, then the challenges are no longer punishment. It becomes a teacher. Difficulties that we face becomes an initiation. Loss becomes a doorway to our deeper understandings. So everything changes when we recognize the consciousness that we are, and understand that the body does not trap us. However, when you lose an understanding of who you are, or when we lose the understanding of who we are, then we do feel like we're trapped, and everything that besets us become a challenge, or become punishment, or some type of difficulty that we cannot find our way out of. But when we sit with it and realize that we are not trapped, we are spirit and we're here for a reason, then it becomes a teacher to us. And it's teaching us who we really are. And when we learn who we are, we then also learn how we have been taught to forget who we are. And that is because we did not enter the temple of the Holy of Holies. We entered the church building. And entering that church building put us under the authority of masculinity, with the recognition, with the embracing rather, the erroneous embracing that the Creator is masculine and not feminine. Excuse me. It is no coincidence that everything that relates to the church, structurally as well as authoritatively, is masculine. There is no room in the church for true femininity. The female in the church, or femininity in the church, is relegated to birthing only what masculinity tells it to birth. When we have programs in the church and they raise money, masculinity has told the missionary group, you need to raise the money. That missionary group raised the money, and then masculinity decides what's going to be done with that money. The femininity in the church is told that we need you to help put together an anniversary for the pastor. The masculine tells the femininity that femininity does it. The femininity sings in the church songs that have no bearing on what the scripture actually means or says. And what happens? Masculinity begins to bring a belief of the word that is antithetical to what the word actually means. So all of these things are trapped in a masculine doctrine, a masculine philosophy that does not give femininity the space to breathe. Does that help you, Reverend?
Yes, it does, and it resonates, and I'm processing.
Okay.
Maybe, let me ask you something. I may have missed it. So did you say that we do not give frequency to symbols or to the Ankh?
Right. I said we do not give frequencies to the Ankh. We receive frequencies from the Ankh.
Okay. What about, I'm sorry, I digress.
Go ahead.
Well, so when we wear those symbols, does that affect us in any way?
If you if you understand what it represents, you receive from it. The ancients, the priests did not hold the Ankh or wear the Ankh because they were given frequency to it. They held it or they wore it to receive frequency from the universe, so they could be of the same frequency of the universe. They could vibrate with the universe, as opposed to us sending it to the universe. Why? Because again, we are in these bodies to learn, and the journey that we have taken. What would the universe be like if we were sending energy, or we were sending a frequency to the universe? what would it be like? Right now, the ozone layer is torn. And if we were sending energy to the universe, then everything in this earth would be destroyed. Why? Because the same masculinity that is destructive in the earth would also be destructive in the universe, because it would be antithetical to the existence of life. So the universe would die also.
Okay. So, and I'm almost done with this. So how does that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you don't have to be. Take your time.
Okay. So how does that coincide with like the priests? Remember how they would wear the symbols and everything in their breastplate? Is that the same principle that you're talking about?
The breastplates that are mentioned in the scriptures are totally spiritual. They have nothing to do with sending anything to the universe. If you read about the breastplates, or if you read about the stones that were placed on the breastplates, what you will find is that they lit up. Where did they get the power to light up? It wasn't from the priests. It was from the universe. It was from the cosmic mother. It was from the energy of life that came into the earth. It was talking about how it was talking about how the unicity between the cosmic mother and the human who is representing spirituality is able to be, it is on the same frequency level, and they are at the same time bringing life and understanding of life into the earth. Looking at the scriptures, we only see men in relationship to a priesthood. That is not true. That the femininity of the females in the earth were priests also. There is no distinction. Like, for example, we say priest and priestess. There is no distinction between a priest in the earth to say that one is feminine, one is masculine. There is no distinction. Either you're a priest or you're not. It's that simple. The idea of the masculine being the head of everything is antithetical to the scriptures. It is not. That is not the place of anyone who is in a position, a masculine one, in a position of authority. When a male sat on the throne as Pharaoh, that male received guidance from femininity. If you look at the depiction of that receiving, you will see a feminine entity that is etched on the walls of the temple, that is bringing understanding and enlightenment to the masculine one who sits on the throne. When a female sits on the throne, the same thing happens, but in a different way. You have to become feminine if you are going to birth justice and righteousness for the benefit of humanity. The physical body that we see may be masculine, but the actions of the heart, when it comes to governing the masses, governing humanity, is birthing righteousness and peace. And that means that the heart of the Pharaoh, the heart of the leadership is feminine. Are you able to see that?
Yes, sir. Thank you for breaking that down. Appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Any other questions or comments about this?
Hello. I have some thoughts about what Evelyn was saying and what you're saying as well. As you guys were speaking, I was thinking of like the architecture that I've seen in Europe of Catholic churches, specifically the sort of arches that are pointed at the top that resemble a vulva. And your discussion makes me wonder if the roots of the church understand the power of femininity, and there may be some evidence of that in how the buildings are shaped. But there is very much a subversion and a control and oppression in trying to take that power and subvert it for their own uses, as opposed to allowing it to, I guess, occupy its rightful place. Would you say that's a fair kind of understanding of what's happening there?
Yes. The Pope, not necessarily all the bishop, but the cardinals, the College of Cardinals, they understand feminine energy. They desire to harness it for masculine use, for masculine domination. When it comes to denominations, they don't understand anything. The whole thing about denominations is a belief in masculinity. The man is the head of the household. The man has the last word in the house. The man is the breadwinner, therefore you submit to him. Wives, submit to your husband as unto the Lord. That's what we find in the scriptures. So what is that saying? Femininity submit to masculinity just as you would submit to the one who created you, or to Jesus. The whole idea of Jesus is the overarching control and manipulation of a man of spiritual things. So when you say that, Janice, yes, ma'am, that's how it is. Now, understanding that that's how it is, why is it that the feminine that it is manipulating does not end it? Why is it that that energy is able to be utilized and manipulated by, let's say, the Pope? Why? Because we were told to dominate. Find out who you are, because you can't dominate without doing that. When you realize that you are consciousness itself, you are able to see where the true energy emanates, and you are able to see how the energy has been manipulated for the detriment and not the benefit of humanity. We are told that the moment that you become aware that you are spirit, you will die. And we are told that the death of which was spoken in that was spoken in that garden about that is flesh was put on us, and that is the flesh itself represents the death of us, because we became aware of who we are, when in essence that in itself is a manipulation. Why is it that we would be created spiritual and not be permitted to know that we are spiritual? Why is it that we would be created with a presence, or something in our presence rather, of good and evil, and the understanding of life itself, and we are not permitted to know what it means? And if we do, then we're going to die. The idea, the concept of the tree being the tree of knowledge, good and evil, and the tree of life itself being created, is the understanding of them are totally different when we look at it from the perspective of the Cushite priests. When we look at it from the perspective of the Cushite priests, it is speaking to us being born spiritually, and the spirit being condensed or becomes dense matter, which means our bodies, and in our bodies is the breath that keeps our bodies alive in this material world, but it doesn't keep us alive. The light that we are continues to receive and to be energized by the source of all life. And being energized by the source of all life, we are the givers of life. Life flows from us. If you live in a house and you don't do anything, that house breathes with you. But if you move out of that house, in a year or two, or three, that house will fall down, or at the very least, it would be in disrepair. So why is it that you can stay in that house and it's okay, but when you move out of that house, it dies? It's simply because we are the givers of life itself. And that being representative of that individual house speaks also to the world around us. Does that make sense? I'm sorry. Is that clear, Janice? Can you see that?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions? Comments? Let me ask you guys, does this resonate with you?
Deeply.
I
Yes.
just have a clarity question.
Go ahead.
So the church itself recognizes feminine energy, and the church is sort of fashioned after either the cross or the Ankh. So they recognize all of that, but they changed the narrative to the cross and male dominance. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. But when you say church, I make that distinction between the Pope and the denominations, because the Catholic Church individually, the Christian churches individually have no clue. But those in the
Right.
Vatican, they do. They know, yes. Now, Muslims have no clue about anything in that regard at all. They have taken their lead from Catholicism. And if you study Islam, you will see how Fatima came into play, being named the daughter of Muhammad, as opposed to being the Fatima being an angel or Catholic, whatever, a Catholic angel or an angel depicted by Catholics or something like that. I have to read the story again, but there is a connection between the two. Islam sees
Oh,
nothing in terms of that.
I thought Fatima was a Catholic nun
Catholic, that's right, that's it, Catholic nun.
who married Muhammad.
There you go. I knew the story was a connection between the two, a merger
Yeah.
of Catholicism and Islam. And that whole the whole story about that is actually both of them trying to usurp the power of each other, Catholicism and Islam, and they became one.
Well, so the church building does sort of represent the Ankh, as Janice was, as according to Janice's description, but that knowledge has been perverted.
It's male dominant. It's the domination of male over the female. Even though you have the arches, what's on top?
Yeah,
A cross.
right.
And when Nick was talking about the length of the bottom part of that vertical bar, that speaks to male dominance. The mindset of male Europeans in particular is a fascination with the male penis. the length, the size of the male penis. The seed is the dominant thing in the earth in the mindset of a European. Everything goes back to that with the European mindset when you look at it from the perspective of Catholicism as well as Islam. That phallic is very important to them. See, when we've talked about genocide, we've talked about cannibalism. Why is it that when we look at the history of cannibalism, especially during the period of enslavement and occupation of the continent by Europeans, why is it that the main thing that they ingested was the male penis, the scrotum? Why is it that they castrate the male and cook his sexual organs? They are fascinated with that. They believe that the dominance of male power and prowess comes from the sexual organs of the male. That's what they see as their dominance. Why do they rape the female? When rape is used as a tool of war, what are they doing? They are breaking the back of a culture by saying you cannot protect your females from us. They are traumatizing femininity by dominating them through rape. When you put all of that together, we see a picture that is clear. The sexual domination is a tool that is used by the mindset of the European to control humanity. And if that is the case, then Catholicism understands that spiritual intercourse is where the power is. The first thing that came from the womb of the cosmic mother was masculinity. And the first, and after that came in the spirit, the essence of the spirit entered this dense world, becoming the body of a male and a female, physical body of a male and a female. And the dominance over those two entities through sexual intercourse or rape was a principle that was used in this material world because of the desire to not only confuse but to contaminate, to create a environment of oh God, what's the word I'm looking for? Fear, which resulted in a people who forgot who they are because they could not see with the eye because they were so busy seeing with the eyes. And what did they see? All the things that they were forced to see. And here we are now making every effort to correct that. Does that resonate, Audrey?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, it does.
George?
Yeah, that definitely resonates. I appreciate, Ron comment when we first started about every time we meet, it gives us an opportunity to truly appreciate that there's no coincidence that we're meeting today on July 4th, right, 2026. But again, to appreciate, in my own personal experience, going to the church and going to the sanctuary and seeing that cross seeing that symbol, that resonated with me very deeply as a child. You know what I mean? Just being in the sanctuary and seeing this big cross. And as I now have the opportunity to spiritually be enlightened as we talk about the Ankh, being able to look at the origin of the Ankh gives such a perspective in terms of appreciating our freedom and our independence to know the truth. The Ankh is the first and the original cross. And to have an understanding of what that represents, as you mentioned, Pastor, in terms of the key of life, the life force itself, you know what I mean? And at the same time, being able to appreciate the opposites of the masculine and feminine energy and creation. So I think that is no coincidence when we look at the cross. We think about it in terms of it representing the root number 3, which talks about the Trinity. But it also, in terms of our experiences in the church, we say what? Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. But when we look at that first Trinity, we see the mother, father, we see the child. And so I think that there's some reason why we are collaborating to be able to go to the primary source in terms of its origin, and now being able to discern it, where we can now move forward to realize, what am I celebrating today? What am I being appreciative of today? And so this has been a, very enlightening session spiritually, just to be able to put things, in the proper perspective. And my last point is, you had mentioned about the womb. The womb represents the vast openness of the cosmos, where endless energies and life forms and realities will one day be discovered. Today, we are discovering who we truly are and our purpose for living. And so again, I just wanted to share those thoughts as we speak about the Ankh, because it's not, like you say, just a symbol, it's eternal life. And when we can understand eternal life, then there's no Jesus on the cross in terms of death. And so, that symbol, like I said before, had its purpose then, it has its purpose now. But if we understand the beginning of it, the origin of it, I think it's helpful. So thanks for letting me share my thoughts. I'm done.
Thank you. Anyone
I,
else?
I think that was beautifully said, George. It kind of, as I sat here and listened to the discussion today, I appreciate learning more about the Ankh, but I also appreciate everybody making the distinction of how the church tried to copy the footprint of truth and true reality. And I appreciate us unraveling that and putting out there in the macro what truth looks like and how it differentiates those things that have no life or no meaning, and the power of everything that the Ankh and the pursuit of truth represents. So yeah, I appreciate the discussion today, and the understanding that we received. Thank you very much. Very powerful.
Thank you. I want to ask again if there are any other questions, because I see our understanding of the Ankh as being necessary for us to see with a greater clarity that we are consciousness, to become more aware of the consciousness, the light, the enlightenment that we are, and to not separate us from the matter, the bodies, but help us to understand the reason we occupy these bodies, the reason that we descended into matter to be divine creators on this earth, the nursery that we were birthed into was to sustain the bodies. And the ones to whom we gave birth, the same nursery sustains the bodies. However, it's incumbent upon us to inform and to be the light that enlightens those who we birth, so that they are able to be sustained spiritually by the divine entities that were brought into these bodies that produce them. No, it's not a coincidence that we are here today on this Sabbath, on this seventh day. It's no coincidence that the day that has been set to be the day separated for our Christianity, and this day of the Sabbath that has been contaminated by Judaism and Islam. It's no coincidence that we are purifying the day by understanding the consciousness and awareness of who we are. But not only that, we are also separating the day of Sunday from a day that's been separated to worship a non-existent God, but as a day of new beginnings.
Yeah.
A day where everything starts over again, meaning a new beginning, not because everything that has been created is new, but it's being renewed, it's being born again, it's being brought into a sense of life again. And when we look at what is transpiring, this day was supposed to be celebrated by the reflection pool that is in disarray. It's supposed to be celebrated by thousands of people in Philadelphia, New York, and in DC. And the heat is making a difference in that. Supposed to be separated on the mall in DC with the representation of county fairs being there, and now the weather, the sun, the energy of life has put all of that in disarray, and that is because of the disrespect that has been directed towards the ozone that protects these physical bodies from the rays of the sun that can be detrimental to the physical body. We are in a good space. We're in a great space. We're in a space where we are recognizing with a depth of understanding the power and presence of change in this place called Earth. So I say to each of us, be reminded of what the Ankh represents. It doesn't mean that you have to have one. It doesn't mean that you have to wear one. It doesn't mean any of that, but it does mean that you understand the spiritual power of it. You understand the symbolic meaning of it. You understand that the symbolic meaning of it encompasses everything in the universe as well as in this earth. And that womb, that loop at the top of that Ankh, in that loop is everything that's in the universe that's made available to those who are in this material world, this world of matter. So, with that understanding, my desire for all of us is never to forget the honor that we owe to the ancestors for preserving us to this point and now guiding us so that we can be the preservation of humanity in this earth, recognizing that we don't have enemies in this earth. None of them meaning those who have railed against our presence, those who disrespect us, they're not our enemies. They are enemies to themselves, and they don't realize it. Those who look like us, the Haitians in particular, those who come from the continent of Africa also, but the Haitians who railed against us, who don't understand we're not their enemy. We did nothing to them. Everything that drove them out of Haiti started with the same people who enslaved us also enslaved them. So don't be angry with them. Don't be upset with them. They are simply children who has embraced the mindset of the Europeans. And as long as they embrace that mindset, they will be children. They will not mature until that mindset has been altered. And by virtue of putting things in the macro that has the power, the essence, the energy to alter those mindsets, we are bringing them to a place of maturation so that they too can embrace the essence of who they were created to be. And to that I say, Ashe.
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 Thank you. I'm done, Ron.
Okay. Great discussion, guys. Have a great day. Enjoy your day. Stay out of the heat if you can, and look forward to tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Ron,
Everyone.
hold on a moment, okay?
Happy
Okay.
4th.